If there is corruption in this, Riju Datta, the Trinamool Congress should go after anybody who's involved in corruption in this.
The way it is being seen, somebody from the minority community getting an award. The BJP says that it has nothing to do with religion here. It is about the individual and his recognition.
There are already attacks coming in that these are arbitrary and very overpowering powers.
Sorry to say this, but they are in a sense a lazy, uninformed response to what is very carefully designed approach to address the risks of misinformation.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching The Nation at 5. I'm Anusha Soni. Our top focus this hour is that big debate happening at the Supreme Court of India. Will the LGBTQ community have their right to equality? They want recognition of same-sex marriage in our country. Is the legal and the social system prepared for this huge, major change that may come via the courts in this country? Today was the day 2 of the Supreme Court hearing on a batch of petitions seeking legal recognition for same-sex marriage that has concluded. The day 2 has concluded. The hearing will continue tomorrow. It's a constitution bench. The primary arguments pertain to marriage being a way to help assimilate the queer individuals in society and to eradicate the social stigma. The matter is being heard by a 5-judge constitution bench, which is led by Chief Justice of India, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. There are various facets on which arguments are happening at the Supreme Court of India. There is a fierce, vociferous opposition that has come in from Solicitor General Mr. Tushar Mehta as to why gay marriage or same-sex marriage cannot be a reality in this country. The union government argues that marriage is not a fundamental right. So only fundamental rights are enforceable via court and only then legal changes can be brought in. The marriage is governed, the institution of marriage is governed by personal laws in this country, which are governed by particular religious codes, say the Islamic personal law, the Muslim personal law, the Christian personal law. Marriage is essentially a state subject. In various ways, how a marriage happens, what customs are going to be recognized, succession rights and various other facets comprise as a state subject in the concurrent list. And hence, the central government argues that various state governments should be heard in this matter. As I earlier argued, there are complex religious and indigenous rights issues which are involved here. Not to forget the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution that imparts special rights and privileges to members of scheduled tribes and certain indigenous community. Their land rights and succession is very, very different in this country. And who can forget the intervention that the NCPCR has made that child rights would be affected if same-sex couples are allowed to adopt in this country. By way of marriage, the next ancillary right is the right to adoption. Now, legalizing the same-sex marriage, what is it that the petitioners argue? The petitioners argue that in this country, they have the right to equality, dignity and liberty like heterosexual couples. They want marriage to be declared as a fundamental right. Beneath the layers of various arguments that you hear in court, there is only one scenario where the Supreme Court interferes in a said law, which is when your Part 3 rights, some of your fundamental rights are affected. If getting married and getting recognition of your marriage is a fundamental right, only then the courts are going to interfere. The petitioners also want to enjoy the full extent of their civil rights in their country, which they believe is intrinsic to their liberty and dignity as a citizen. They also want privacy in homes and no stigma in public. Not to forget the famous Puttaswamy judgment, which laid down that privacy is a fundamental right in this country. They also argue that they should be registered under the Special Marriage Act. Under the various religious codes that you have in this country, there is only one, seemingly secular or a civil code that exists, which is a Special Marriages Act. Under that, the definition of marriage should be made gender neutral. Ananya Bhatnagar with us on the broadcast. Ananya, a quick wrap from you, the day 2 of the arguments, what exactly happened at the Supreme Court?
Well, definitely, Anusha, it was a very, very important day at the topmost court of the country, Constitution Bench, hearing the historic same-sex relationships case. And very, very clearly, the Chief Justice of India, and I'm quoting Dr. Dhananjay Chandrachud on this, very, very clearly he said that state cannot discriminate individuals on a characteristics which they do not have a control on. In fact, he also dubbed the central government's argument that same-sex relationships are something that is an urban elitist concept. In fact, he also went on to say that it is not an urban elitist concept, though there is a fact that more urban people are coming out and exploring their gender, exploring their gender, but at the same point of time, the government has no data to show and make this claim that it is an urban elitist concept. Now, another big development that has happened today is that the Solicitor General of India, Mr. Tushar Mehta, has informed the top court about that the letter has been sent to all of the chief secretaries of various states, and it has been asked about their views on the same-sex marriage. To responding to which the Chief Justice of India said that since you've now informed these states, if they want to say something, they can come back. However, Mr. Mehta constantly reiterated his demand that, the states should be heard in this particular matter, and every state should actually come up either by way of a party, or the centre should continue with its consultative process, and until the consultative process is over, the same-sex marriage case should be put on a hold. Another very, very important development that has taken place today is that the petitioners are constantly arguing that, the heterosexual couples and the homosexual couples deserve equal right, and they are equal before the law, and they should be given out this particular right. Mr. Rohatgi has concluded his arguments, and now on the day 2, Mr. Singhvi and Menika Guruswamy was actually representing the petitioners in this particular case. So what happens tomorrow, new observations, and what follows by the court in its observations and oral questions is something that is a matter of time, and we'll get to know. But at the same point of time, this debate will be getting better and in fact murkier when the matter goes on and on for the next few weeks, because remember that the petitioners
all I can say, Ananya, as we all observe that live streaming of the proceedings happening, there is going to be more fireworks, more interesting arguments and fascinating arguments for an evolving and changing legal and social system like India. Well, what is it that the petitioners want? Before we take it to our guests who'd also join us on the broadcast, I have with me Aditi Anand. She's one of the petitioners before the Supreme Court of India. Over 20 petitions have lined up. Aditi, thank you so much for speaking with us. My first question to you is that, forget the social change, for a diverse country like India, the social change reality can be a contested territory. Legally speaking, are we really ready for a change of this nature? Is the Indian legal system equipped to deal with this? Because most of our laws pertaining to marriage and the allied issues have a strong, notion of gender, which is implicit in them. Aditi.
So thank you for having me. As far as I understand the Indian Constitution, and I'm very grateful that yesterday when the proceedings began, it began with the reading of the preamble to the Constitution, that if an individual's rights are being impinged or hurt, there is no time frame, there is no appropriate time in which they can seek recourse or remedy in the highest court of the land. It is not a coincidence that India is one of the only functioning democracies. If you look at many of our neighbors, India stands apart. And if in a democratic nation like India, we are not able to hold up social justice and the rights of every citizen and every individual, then I feel that we have failed in our project of democracy. And I think the fact that this point is being made that we are culturally not ready for this, I think this is also an incorrect fact, because I can tell you that my lived reality is that I have been out for the last 15 years, and everybody, all our neighbors, everybody that we have worked with, all my colleagues, we became parents in 2020, and schools, everyone that we've reached out to, doctors, pediatricians, every single person.
And Aditi, I don't want to go so much on the, as I earlier said, on the cultural and the social territory, because for a diverse country like India, I don't think there's a conclusive argument. I'll limit myself on the legal landscape of India, and is it really ready for it? Is marriage a fundamental right? The central government in its affidavit argued that marriage is not a fundamental right. You cannot claim that before a court of law and seek for some kind of tweaking in the Special Marriages Act.
I've said this before, but I think that, and because we're talking about culture in the previous segment, there are three pillars on which our society is built: birth, death, and marriage. So you're saying that one of the three pillars that makes your life fulfilled in this country, the pillar towards which every parent wants their child to reach, you're saying that that one pillar should be removed from certain people's lives. Yes, marriage is most definitively a fundamental right. And the court has mentioned this over and over again, is that the right to dignity and to be able to live a life of dignity is a fundamental right. Denying people their right to marriage is denying their right to live a life with dignity.
Marriage is intrinsically linked to dignity, Article 21, 19 and 14. That's the fulcrum of the petitioner's argument before the Supreme Court. That takes me to another facet, Aditi. India is an outlier in the sense that we don't have a uniform civil code in this country. Most democracies have a civil code system that governs them. The absence of a uniform civil code makes the situation more difficult for you. Would you agree?
I think the fact that that personal laws have now been taken out of the equation makes that answer much more simple. And if you hear the arguments made even by Dr. Singhvi today, I think that the point that is being made is that the transition in the SMA from a heterosexual marriage to a marriage between any two persons is not that far a journey for the court to travel.
Yeah.
That's one. And two is that if it is that the legislature is saying that, hey, this is our job, then certainly for us, the question to be asked is that why aren't you doing your job? Why there are private member bills that have been introduced in the past, but why is it that the legislature has never been able to take it up? And why has there never been a conversation? Forget reaching a conclusion. There has never been a conversation on the rights of queer people in the legislature. So I would say that, sure, if the legislature feels it's their job, they have been seriously derelict in their duty towards citizens of this nation.
My last question to you. None other than the NCPCR has opposed same-sex marriage, saying it's detrimental to child rights, because once a marriage is recognized, the ancillary right is right to adoption, and they're saying you can't give that to same-sex couples. What do you have to say to that?
People keep making these statements, and I'm waiting to see one single person that substantiates, a point being made with any real data or facts or any supporting it. They keep saying that psychological damage will happen, and one of the things that they conflate very easily is some form of deviance, because they always bring up abuse.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they've actually been able to make that connection between deviance and parenting of same-sex parents. I can tell you this from personal experience of myself, my family, and many, many, many people that I know, that these are extremely happy, well-adjusted children who have wonderful relationships with their grandparents, wonderful relationships with their cousins and extended family. That psychological damage that everybody talks about is a factor of what society does to same-sex families. It is not a factor of what same-sex parents are doing to their children. And so everybody, particularly, and this is my request, and I say this respectfully, that religious leaderships should in fact be using their platforms to be able to ensure that society does not have that stigma. And therefore that psychological damage that everybody keeps talking about is not, that young children are not subjected to that.
Well, Aditi, it's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Good luck for that big, fight at the Supreme Court. Indeed, it's going to be one of the milestones of the debates that we are going to witness at the Supreme Court, setting the cultural and legal paradigm in many ways for personal laws and, of course, for the LGBTQ community. Thank you for joining us on the show. I want to take this conversation forward with Ashish Dikshit, who's a lawyer. We also have Mr. Sumit Nagpal, who's a lawyer at the Supreme Court and other courts here in the national capital. Good evening to both of you. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Ashish, first to you. Is the Indian legal landscape, forget the cultural arguments, I'm not even delving into them right now. Is the Indian legal landscape really ready for this kind of change, to make marriage a gender-neutral concept in the Indian context? Ashish, can you hear me? All right, we'll just try and fix that connection with Ashish, but I believe Sumit can hear me. Good evening, Sumit. I hope you can hear me. I'll take that question to you. Legally, are we ready for this kind of change to make marriage a gender-neutral concept?
See, as far as law is concerned, law is always evolving. Law continuously develops, and we have seen that the law has developed in last so many years in India, and we have seen decriminalization of Section 377. And as far as this particular case is concerned, same-sex marriages, I would say that what is the definition of the word right? Because when it comes to rights, tomorrow if somebody says that, you know, the marriage between brother and sister should be made legal, the marriage between a widowed mother and a son should be made legal, are we going to allow that? So when it comes to the word right, you have to see that when it comes to right, our constitution also says that rights are there, but no right is absolute. And as far as the people who are in favor of same-sex marriages, I would say that India is a liberal democracy. India has allowed a situation where if somebody wants to indulge in some same-sex relationships, they will not be penalized. So earlier there was a problem that people were penalized for these things, but now as far as our society is concerned, society has accepted that there are people who may be of this kind of inclination. But I am surprised that what would be the end? Where would be the limit go? Tomorrow you can say that it is my right, I want to marry my sister. So some limit has to be there, and no right is absolute. Our constitution says that. So I don't think so that India as a democracy, as a liberal democracy, should allow such kind of things to happen, because we have to find a balance. I'm sorry, you were asking about legal things, but I would say that when it comes to legality of certain things, you have to see the social fabric of the society as well. Law,
well, Sumit, this is one argument that has resonated on multiple occasions at the court as well. Ashish is back with us on the show, and Ashish, I want you to dissect a few critical legal issues here, and I believe it's lost in a lot of noise between, you know, whether this is culturally acceptable versus there has to be a line drawn somewhere. Even legally speaking, it is not a straitjacket formula that you go ahead and make Special Marriages Act as a gender, you make the definition of marriage there as gender neutral. There are various allied laws in this country, the Succession Act, you have the Guardianship and the Wards Act, there are various laws pertaining to domestic violence, over a dozen laws and statutes that I can name at this point in time, all around the institution of marriage. And if you were to recognize marriage as a gender neutral concept, that elaborate legislative work needs to be taken up, and it can only be taken up by an elected government of the day, not by courts of law. Ashish.
See, there is some sense to this argument, because the situation in which we are in, we are living in 21st century. More than 30 countries have already legalized same-sex marriages. But when it comes to a country like India with so much of diversity, in my opinion, the correct forum should be the parliament with a proper study and how the laws have to evolve. Because it's not that only one act, as you have rightly pointed out, it's not that just a simple act of Special Marriage Act has to be read down or read into. It is going to need a major overhaul of many statutes, including succession, your rights of marriage, your rights of having, like there was a big example given that we are not able to buy insurance for our partners and all those things. It's a very complex issue. Even if I think that suppose there is a decision by the Supreme Court, the implementation, considering the diverse nature of our society, would be very difficult. I think the proper way should be that there should be time given to the legislature to come up with a policy, and in the interim period, the Supreme Court may give limited right to the people who are claiming their legitimate rights to have some kind of rights as a married couple or something which is recognized. Like in cases of live-in, we have recognized, the courts have recognized that yes, this is a relationship which is a relationship recognized in law. Similarly, till the time legislature comes up with a proper perspective, a proper report and overhauling of all the statutes, there should be some interim arrangement made by the Supreme Court, because it is going to be a very critical exercise. It's not a plain judgment of the court, which has to be implemented by the parties.
It's not as simple as a
of
particular provision of law being tested against fundamental rights, whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional.
Exactly.
You know, as you're pointing out, there's another facet, Ashita, I want you to talk about, legal one, then I'll go to Sumit for some other arguments, which is that I think India is an outlier in the sense that there is no uniform civil code in this country. The diversity and the complex personal laws that exist in a democracy like India, there is no other legal example of such laws in any other democracies of the world. So whenever somebody picks up an example of some other democracy and say, look, they have recognized these partnerships, well, they have a civil code that governs their life. And the fact that there is no UCC makes the implementation legally very, very tricky, borderline impossible.
I completely agree with you. And not only our democracy and our the cultures which we follow, you look at our collegium system. There is no other country in this world which has a similar system for appointment of judges. So because there is certain uniqueness to our society, the Supreme Court, while dealing with issue of appointment of judges, developed a system of collegium. So we have to also understand that with the non-existence of UCC and UCC being such a sensitive topic, that whenever there is a decision, there are protests from multiple quarters of society. And even in this matter, we have seen that all the religious bodies, including the Islamist bodies and the Hindu bodies, have approached the court opposing this thing. So this is not something which is very easy to implement. And I, as a lawyer, would not want a judgment to be delivered by the Honorable Supreme Court which is not capable of being executed. Supreme Court is known for delivering judgments which are easy to implement, which can be implemented. But to say that, okay, we are passing a directive, but what will happen on the ground? It is so difficult situation that we have to evolve a procedure. Absolutely. And the correct forum should be the parliament.
And to add to the argument of Ashish, I mean, we have never had a law commission report on this particular issue or a special committee monitoring this. We do need an in-depth study on this issue. I'm sorry, I'm very short of time, Sumit. I'm not able to come to you right now. There is some breaking bit of development coming in. I'm thanking both of you. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast. We'll continue tracking this debate. But right now, there's the latest information which is coming in. This is via sources. Prashant Kishore to close a deal with Sachin Pilot. That's the big news which is coming in. Sachin Pilot, who has been sounding a tune of rebellion within the Congress party, is in talks with Prashant Kishore, who is known to be a political strategist and somebody who's himself actively looking out for political opportunities. Now, sources further indicate that there's a meeting which is underway between IPAC and Sachin Pilot. Already a team is stationed in Rajasthan, and if the deal is closed, IPAC will be strategizing for the campaign trail of Sachin Pilot. The question is, if the campaign for Sachin is being in Congress, or will this be Sachin Pilot talking about his own political outfit, which many argue is a plausible option before him. Sharon Elizabeth is joining us on the broadcast. Sharon, what is the chatter that you're picking up?
Well, the sources within the IPAC has in fact confirmed to CNN News 18 that there is already a team which is in fact stationed in Rajasthan. The talks are underway. There are in fact been rounds of meeting that is held between Prashant Kishore as well as Sachin Pilot to determine whether they want to close this deal. Now, a number of times there has in fact been talks that once Sachin Pilot, if he is going to leave the Congress party, whether he's going to start his own political outfit or not. So if the campaign is really this campaign, which in case the closed deals, whether it is going to be a campaign for Sachin Pilot being in Congress, or is it going to be a different political outfit that Sachin Pilot is going to come up with, that of course we will get to know in coming days. But as far as signing the deal with Prashant Kishore is concerned, that is of course going on. There has in fact been a meeting that was held in the national capital as well. And in Rajasthan already the IPAC team is gauging the ground situation, and accordingly a report will be submitted. And whether the deal will be closed is something that we have to, of course, in coming days is something that will happen. But surely talks are going on between IPAC and Sachin Pilot. And this will, of course, decide what is going to be the future course of Sachin Pilot, whether he will remain in Congress party, or like he has, there has in fact been talks that he will start his own political party before the Rajasthan Assembly elections are.
Sharon, who all are part of this meeting? Who all are present? Prashant Kishore, is he directly in touch with Sachin Pilot, or there are other team members as well? Who are the people who are in attendance?
Well, as of now, what we know is that this is the team very much. This is the same team that was in part of Jan Suraj, which is also a political outfit that was put in forth by Prashant Kishore in Patna, which is still working on. And the same team, members of the same team are in fact part of the meeting. They're also stationed in Rajasthan. We also know that Prashant Kishore and Sachin Pilot were also part of this meeting. One such meeting was held in the national capital. The other meetings were in Rajasthan. So in coming days, we'll get to know more details whether this deal has been signed. What our sources have been suggesting, though, that the meetings are underway. There has in fact been 2-3 rounds of meetings. The deal has not been closed. But in coming days, it is for sure that a deal will be signed, and accordingly, IPAC will be campaigning for Sachin Pilot.
All right. Sharon, let's brush it up for our viewers. The kind of trouble Sachin Pilot has been creating for the Congress party, or the kind of trouble he himself is in when he is in the Congress party. He has sounded a kind of rebellion back in 2020. The situation was controlled. He was brought back within the fold. But the kind of tone and tenor he has adopted against Ashok Gehlot in the run-up to the Rajasthan Assembly elections is clearly something that hints that there could be some deeper fissures or perhaps a split within the party. Sharon, can you hear me? We'll just try and connect to my colleague Sharon. Sharon, allow me a moment. There's a piece of breaking news coming in. I'll come back to you in just a bit. This is about the Karnataka Congress campaign. And interestingly, in the star campaigners list, there is no Sachin Pilot in Karnataka Congress campaigners list. Pallavi with us on the broadcast. Pallavi, just few seconds ago, I was talking to Sharon about the possibility of Sachin Pilot looking out for political opportunities or having his own political outfit, he being in conversation with IPAC. What does this really signify?
Well, I mean, this just goes on to show that how the distancing slowly of the Congress party is perhaps possibly taking place with Sachin Pilot. Now, just to talk about Sachin and his campaigning for the Congress party, I remember he was included as a star campaigners list even as recently as the MC elections which we saw in the national capital. He was there as a star campaigner. He, of course, was made a coordinator in Himachal Pradesh. But, you know, of late, there's a distancing which has been maintained. If you remember, there were a series of press conferences which were held over the Adani issue after the parliament disqualification of Rahul Gandhi across the country. Sachin Pilot was not included among those press conference lists. The second, of course, being skipped from the star campaigners list in Karnataka elections, I would see this as very significant, especially when the focus is also going to be on the urban areas, the Bengaluru areas where you're getting in Shashi Tharoor, you're getting in younger leaders like Kanhaiya Kumar, Imran Pratapgadi, obviously with an eye on the minority vote bank as well. But to skip Sachin Pilot, who has always been one of the most high-profile star campaigners of the Congress party, out of the Karnataka list also goes on to show that the Congress doesn't understand how to deal with him. While they're dragging their feet over taking disciplinary action against him, there are many in the party who feel a lesson must be taught, a cue must be given to Sachin Pilot. This is going to be in troubled times. Because when you look at the history, you know, Anusha, or Jitin Prasad or Jyotirajya Scindia, eventually leaving the party, their complaint has often been on this. There is a particular coterie which works against a particular person who may be perceived to be falling out of favor. Early days yet, sources close to Sachin Pilot still maintain it's wrong to say that I'm going to think of floating my own front or leaving the Congress party. But yes, there are Sachin Pilot supporters who are unhappy with the fact that, you know, he's not being given the place that he should be given.
Pallavi, I'll pick your brain on this IPAC story as well. Sachin Pilot and the possibility of him floating his own political outfit.
Well, I mean, I did speak to sources close to him. He has recently, for example, a design box, which is now handling the account of, say, D.K. Shiv Kumar and also Ashok Gehlot, were actually doing it for Sachin Pilot before that. So sources close to him maintain that there have been many such PR agencies who have been in touch with him, IPAC certainly being one of them. As I said, I mean, no clarity yet on whether he's even seriously mulling the possibility of breaking away from the Congress party. He has been in touch with top Congress leaders. Kamal Nath met him. K.C. Venugopal also met him. Priyanka Gandhi Vagra also has met him. So it's not that he's not having any channel of communication going with the Congress party, but the messaging is certainly very confused. If on one hand, Kamal Nath tries to send out a message that it's important not to take action against him, on the other hand, him being left out of the Karnataka star campaigners list also has mixed signals coming in from the Congress. Any political leader obviously wants to hire political strategists, and that's what people close to him are insisting, that there have been many political strategists who have been in touch with him. No clarity, no decision yet on what he sees his future within and outside the Congress.
How he sees his future within or outside the Congress party. Pallavi, last question to you about this possibility of Sachin Pilot jumping ship and joining the BJP. That's not happening?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about the BJP, I think, realistically speaking, does it really have a future in the BJP? It already boasts of stalwarts like, say, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat and, of course, Vasundhara Raje Scindia. So BJP, many would see as a no-no. Which other political party does he have an option with? If you talk in the context of Rajasthan, one thing he's always made it very clear, on record, off record, always, has been that, as far as Rajasthan is concerned, I slogged here for 4.5 years and my party came to power over here. I do not want to give up my base, which is the state of Rajasthan. So he's always going to look for a political alternative if he has to, something which helps him in the Rajasthan politics.
All right, Pallavi and Shirin Elizabeth getting us all the details. Thank you so much for all that perspective and dope about what's happening with Sachin Pilot and the Rajasthan Congress. Well, here's talking about the battle for Karnataka. The battleground Karnataka continues to heat up. State Chief Minister Basuraj Bommai, he has filed his nomination from Shigaon constituency after a day filled with road shows and various other rallies. He was accompanied by BJP President Mr. JP Nadda and Kannada actor Kicha Sudeep. The Congress party released their fourth list yesterday. It comprised of 7 candidates for the upcoming election. Mohammad Yusuf Savanur has been fielded against Chief Minister Bommai. Former Chief Minister and BJP turncoat Jagadish Shettar received a ticket from the constituency he was denied a ticket from when he was in BJP, the Hubballi Dharwad Central. He filed his nomination earlier today. Ex-State Chief Minister Siddaramaiah hit out at the BJP about defections, saying that the wind is blowing in favour of the grand old party. Listen in to the words coming in. Before that, I want to cut across to my colleague Ritu as well, who's with us on the broadcast to give us more perspective about what's happening in Karnataka politics and how confident does the Congress party really seem at this point in time. Ritu, help us understand what Mr. Siddaramaiah said today, a day which saw a lot of nomination papers being filed. You also have the Congress party banking upon the fact that a lot of big names from the BJP have joined the grand old party.
Very true. You see, today in the Karnataka, in fact, many big names filed their nominations for the assembly elections, and because tomorrow is the last date to file the nomination, and also it being Amavasya in the Karnataka, most of the leaders do believe do have their thoughts about it. And of course, that's the whole reason why we also saw so many leaders coming out today and filing their nominations. So all of them look very confident that the mood is on their side, but it is all going to be decided on the May 13th at whom the voters have voted. But you see, today all the big leaders, whether CM Basuraj Bommai or former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, B.S. Yediyurappa, his son D.Y. Vijayendra, also veteran leader Jagadish Shettar, who filed his nomination from Hubballi, Dharwad Central. All of them were saying that their party will win, and also it's all that they believe in for the development. So, of course, in the Karnataka this time, the development remains to be the first top topic for the discussion, in fact. So this is the reason why you see JP Nadda, who was in Shigaon, was also pressing on the development and peace in the state. So that's the reason he said that he wasn't here for CM Basuraj Bommai alone, but also asking the voters to vote for the BJP and ensure that there is more development in the state. And he also lashed out at the Congress, calling them an ATM machine there again. So that's the kind of befitting words that has in fact erupted in the Karnataka today, the whole day. And on the other hand, you saw how former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah said that his party, the Congress party, will win more than 125 seats and ensure that they will come to power. And
indeed, Ritu, the Congress party sounds very confident, and only the 13th of May will tell us if that is really true. We have had a lot of political reactions come through the day. Listen into the voices coming in.
Sir, today you filed a nomination. Kicha Sudeep was also here. So how much of plus point it is going to be for you actually?
See, there is a overwhelming support in my constituency. There is a very close rapport between me and my people. Even though I have become Chief Minister, I have not touched lost the touch. And there is a lot of love, affection, and there is a bohemian relation between me and my people. And every time they come in big number, this time also they come in big number. Kicha Sudeep has added the enthusiastic youths this time. So we are going to win with a huge margin.
So will Mr. Bommai face a backlash this time during the elections, because we have seen the reservation row as well, and in the Shigao, Panchamasalis happens to be very much dominant because
you are asking a wrong question. I have given more reservation to Panchamasalis. So most of them have come at Panchamasalis. I am the first chief minister in 30 years who has attended their problems and solved their problems. I have made the order. So they are very happy.
So one last question, how do you see your opponent now from the Congress party that they have failed?
I don't know about him.
बोमई साहब को कम समय मिला है, उनको और मौका मिलना चाहिए और मोदी जी के दिए गए कार्य को आगे बढ़ाने का अवसर है कि आज जो मैं जोश देख रहा हूं, जो मैं उत्साह देख रहा हूं, जो मैं तालियों की गड़गड़ाहट देख रहा हूं, आपने बोमई साहब को अगले 5 साल के लिए विधानसभा में भेजने का तय कर लिया है। ये कर्नाटक में विकास की गंगा बहती रहे, इसलिए कमल के निशान पर वोट मांगने के लिए आया हूं। विकास में स्थिरता आए, विकास चलता रहे, निरंतर चलता रहे, यह चुनाव का मुद्दा है।
Shall we start? Rolling? Okay. Well, I'm joined by the man himself, Mr. D.K. Shukma. Thank you so much for joining us here in CNN News 18. My first question to you is, with Mr. Jagadish Shettar and Mr. Saudi coming in, and there are also others who are, you said they're in touch with you to join in. This exodus that we're seeing from the BJP and the Congress with its arms wide open, how is it going to help the Congress?
See, whoever believe in Congress ideology, they are a double engine government. That double engine has failed. Congress party this Karnataka can't be run by the national Modi ji or Amit Shah ji. It is a local issue. We are looking at the local problems. The engine has failed, the government has failed, they could not give a good governance. Here is a state with lot of people of the state are very educative, progressive. We want Karnataka, the image of Karnataka, whatever we had, should be maintained. You know that Atal Bihari Vajpayee also once said that Karnataka is attracting the world leaders. That is how we have to keep up. So we will see that we will protect the Karnataka interest is number one. The development is two. Root out corruption. To help the people of the state on price rise, we have come out with 4 guarantees and we are coming out with a manifesto. Whatever the manifesto, we will keep it up.
Let me ask you on that, because the BJP is going around and saying that this time they'll fight the election on development and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's face. You have the guarantee card that you have been distributing to people. The corruption, Pay CM corruption campaign that you started has clicked with people in the urban areas and in some parts of the rural Karnataka as well. What else are you basing your election this time on? Apart from, is Operation Hasta also one of it?
See, what they had promised, they could not deliver. What Modi can tell here? Modi could not save their party, save their leaders, save their narrative. They could not do it. It will not run out here. You can't make any magic here.
Mr. Nadda has just said that Mr. Modi will come to Karnataka, and they're also saying Modi tsunami aayega and it will come and change everything for the BJP. Hawa change ho jayega. So how does the Congress look at that then?
Let they daily sleep here. Let them sleep here. Karnataka weather is good. Political weather is also good. Culture, nature, everything is good. Let them enjoy here.
Let me ask you about your seat, because you're going to be fighting against Mr. R. Ashok. How do you look at it? Because he told me that he's going to make Kanakpura a BJP constituency.
I wish him all the best. I am not fighting Kanakpura. I am not the candidate of Kanakpura. Yes. In every house, there are D.K. Shukmas. Every house, Shukumar name is there. They will fight the election.
And your brother as well is supporting you. Your brother as well is supporting you. It looks like now it's the DK brothers who are now going to take on the BJP.
It is not DK brother. The Congress is going to take on BJP.
Thank you very much for talking to us, sir.
I have no doubt that we are going to get absolute majority and we are going to form the government. Nobody can't stop it. Jayendra is going to win more than 50,000 margin votes. And everybody has insisted him to contest from Shikaripura because I am not contesting. So now he is going to get complete support from almost all the community, and he is going to win about 50,000 margin.
The DK Shukumar against R. Ashok. So how do you see this?
See, I don't want to comment politically, but end of the day, people have to decide. So, end of the day, people will decide.
So how do you see the atmosphere right now here?
I think your cameras will get a glimpse of the atmosphere that is going to be here today. At the same time, a lot of pro-development activities have happened since, almost in the 15 years. So, the moment he became MLA, there has been a continuous trend of development activities happening in this constituency. And I think people are appreciating that, and they're coming down to the streets today to be part of the procession. A lot of development activities here, which people are more appreciative of. At the end of the day, people expect development activities. They don't expect anything else. As I'm going to each and every village, I myself am seeing all the pro-development activities that have happened, and people are very appreciative of that fact. Whatever allegations the opposition has put on are all false allegations, according to me. And to be specific about my role, I'm here to support father at his constituency in Shiggaon.
Congress party never believes in caste politics. Congress party is a secular party. Congress party expects votes from all communities. Clearly shows that there is an internal understanding between BJP and JDS.
We'll continue tracking that battle for Karnataka and much more on the other side of a quick break. Stay tuned.
As a citizen of India, as a proud citizen of India, as a tax-paying citizen of India, I think we're all at a point now where we're now demanding these equal rights, right? And it's very important. You know, when I was hearing that argument, the fact that they talked about the fact that this was just an urban elite phenomena, I think my eyes rolled so hard because LGBTQ, the T, the transgenders, that community talks so openly and vocally about the fact that they don't get jobs, that they have to become sex workers or that they become beggars. So, you know, when I was hearing about this whole urban elite phenomena, it just feels like a construct where they very conveniently want to look at one side making the argument. Sure, there could be extremely poor people who are gay, but they're probably not coming to the forefront because they don't have livelihoods, they don't have money at the moment. At the same time, the other counter argument is, even if it is an urban elite phenomena, which it is not, so what? Because equality and rights have never depended on your social and monetary status. Because by the same logic, if these were poor people, would you then have said, oh, they're only poor, we don't need to listen to them? So either ways, that argument held no water for me, because when you're saying basically this is just urban elite or that they're not making money, it makes no sense. The second part, which I thought was very deeply questionable when they talked about the fact that India is not ready, you know, popularity, the popular vote doesn't often mean the thing is right. Popularity doesn't always mean it's the path of righteousness. Sati was a popular concept, but we had to get done with it. There was a point where everyone thought child labor was just fine. Everyone thought child marriage was just fine. But these amendments and these laws were changed because we had to move with times. Just because today a popular majority thinks that, you know, LGBTQIA is just okay, it's not cool. You know, when you talked about the fact that these laws will also make sure that now, even when I find a boyfriend, first of all, finding a boyfriend and a husband is still going to be a task. But even when I do find that person, to something as simple as just going to a club, it says only couples entry allowed. If I go with my boyfriend, I'm not allowed to enter a club because you need a girl. So, you know, when they talked about the fact that so much will need to be changed, my response to that is please do it, because as my job as a citizen is to uphold the constitution and to live by the law. Okay. And the constitution job is to make sure that they give me equal rights.
So, Shashank Shekhar Jha, again, you know, the fundamental point here is about you cannot discriminate against a class of citizens no matter what the parameter is. And in this case, it's about sexual orientation. That has been clearly said in the right to privacy, the Aadhaar judgment, that you cannot that right to privacy is a fundamental right, and that sexual orientation is encompassed in the right to privacy. So you're basically discriminating against an entire class of citizens against Article 14 and 15 simply because of their sexual orientation.
Namaste to everyone on the panel. I guess no, we are taking it in a wrong way. See, Navtej judgment of Supreme Court and Puttu Swami judgment of Supreme Court and then Aadhaar card judgment of Supreme Court has clearly stated that Article 14, 19, 21 is for the individual's rights, and it should not be disregarded. So for that point, I am saying that I am just saying that any type of phobia should be boycotted or avoided. And for that point, here is homophobia we are talking about. Now, I am completely in favor of that. But then the second point is, on the basis of those aspects and on the basis of individual rights which you have already got, can you now claim or start claiming that you should also get the societal rights, or for that point, all the institutions which are based on heterosexual community should also be granted or extended to homosexuals?
No, but once again, society. When you say societal rights, once again, it's not society that is giving me the rights to property in case a couple splits, or it is not society that's giving me right to adoption in case a heterosexual couple wants to adopt a child. It's the law. It's not society.
No. So here is the problem. See, if you go through the history of marriage starts in Hinduism, where a child asks whether whether his parents can get married or not. The history I am talking about. So.
Well, here's talking about the story coming from Sudan and how it has evoked certain reactions here in India as the violence between rival armed groups continues to simmer in Sudan. A war of words on Twitter has now erupted between several politicians in India. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has lashed out at Congress leader Mr. Siddaramaiah for politicizing the issue. Siddaramaiah in his tweet had appealed to the centre to bring back over 30 Karnataka tribals stuck in the country. Congress leader Jairam Ramesh also jumped into the Twitter battle and called the External Affairs Minister as appalling. BJP leader Tejasvi Surya called out Congress and said that the centre doesn't need rescue mission lessons from the Congress party. India has maintained that it is closely monitoring the situation in Sudan while ensuring the safety of its nationals. The reactions.
अरे सूडान में अगर भारतवासी फंसे हैं और हम आवाज उठा रहे हैं कि उनकी सुरक्षा प्रदान की जाए, सुरक्षित लाया जाए, तो ये राजनीति है, ये कायरता है जो भाजपा की सरकार और विदेश मंत्री का बयान है कि इस पर राजनीति न करिए। हम राजनीति नहीं कर रहे हैं, अपने भारतवासियों की सुरक्षा की गुहार लगा रहे हैं।
181 people from Karnataka stuck in Sudan, including 31 from the Hakipiki tribe. Congress is asking the union government to step in and ensure these people are rescued. The government says it's a process, it will take time. What should the union government and the state government do, sir, ideally now?
No, I think firstly they should open up communication with all the families, give them clarity on what is happening, and the central government should put every effort to see that they come back immediately and do it on a war footing, because there's a lot of tension, a lot of pressure on these families. They're worried. So a lot of the information should be very clear, and the government also should be much more proactive, more serious, and because Sudan also is having so many issues right now with all their internal problems. So they have to have some evacuation mechanism in case the government is not cooperating, how to evacuate them, or they're not, or if they're failing to support our evacuation measures, then something has to be done. So I hope that the central government will step in a much more aggressive manner and get those people back.
So the Congress saying more needs to be done by the state government and the union government to bring back Kannadigas and other Indians stuck over there, including 31 Hakipiki tribal people. How do you see this, sir?
India has evolved and emerged as a global force and a global leader under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister. Wherever an Indian, we have shown how Indian will be rescued and how we'll reach out to him. Time and again, let it be in Operation Ganga in Ukraine, we have rescued more than 20,000 students from Ukraine in no time, even though it was in a war zone.
Yeah.
So we were able to rescue and show the way. Let it be anywhere, any place. Let it be in the Middle East. In the Middle East, almost all country, whenever one tweet we are read out to the people. So enough, this Congress people, they had made India weak. They had made Indians helpless. What may happen to any Indian anywhere during their rule, they were not in a position to reach out to any person. So this Congress party need not worry. Our government is strong enough to reach out anywhere and rescue and bring any of our people.
And you have another leader who has reacted on the story. Mr. Shashi Tharoor, the Congress leader, has said something. He argues that the criticism made by the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is misplaced. This is in reference to what Mr. Siddaramaiah had requested. I'm quoting what Shashi Tharoor said. Jaishankar's response surprises me. He knows that public representatives frequently convey to government from constituents in distress. He has helped me in several requests during COVID. Why was Siddaramaiah's request so appalling? So you have various Congress leaders coming out in support. Pallavi with us on the broadcast. Pallavi, this issue becomes very important, especially in the run-up to the Karnataka elections.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, in Karnataka, this has already become a poll issue, which is why you have the former Chief Minister, Siddaramaiah, and just about everyone making it an issue, raising the question, because we know there are over 50 of them who are actually from Karnataka, and they also belong to a tribal community, which is an important vote bank. Now, Shashi Tharoor, interestingly, we were just talking about this a short while back. One of the star campaigners, he's been a former External Affairs Minister, and someone who understands what world politics is all about. When he also jumps into the fray and he starts questioning, I think now the entire issue has become political, a tug of war between the BJP and the Congress party, with the Congress clearly accusing the BJP and the central government of not doing enough to rescue the Indians who are stranded there, where the BJP making the point that these are foreign policy issues. And therefore, just because the elections round the corner, there are people belonging to Karnataka, does not make you insinuations, one, that you're not trying to help them, and second, you step into foreign policy issues which are delicate situation, and politicizing this may actually endanger those who are trapped there.
Thank you, Pallavi, for putting all the details into context for us. Thank you for joining us on the show. Well, CNN News 18 spoke exclusively to some of the Indians who are stranded in Sudan amid violence. Listen in to this excerpt of that conversation.
पहले जो है फायरिंग होती थी यहाँ पे, और जो टैंकर का जो ब्लास्ट करते थे, बम ब्लास्टिंग जो दूर पे होता था, अभी नजदीक आ गया है मैडम। यहाँ पे रूम के आजू बाजू ही मार रहे हैं लोगों को, और फायरिंग जो है बहुत तेजी से चल रही है यहाँ पे। जो आम जनता है यहाँ की, वो जो भी है यहाँ पूरा कारतून सिटी खाली कर दिया है यहाँ पे। और जो यहाँ का जो हम है, जो रूम का जो मैनेजर, होटल का जो मैनेजर जो था, वो पूरा भाग गया है। पूरा यहाँ के लोग पूरा भाग गया।
छोटे गांव था, उस गांव में भाग गया है वो। मैं यहाँ का जो होटल का मैनेजर, वो भाग गया है। और सारे यहाँ पे जो ठहरे हैं, हम इंडियन से ठहरे हैं यहाँ पे। वो पानी तो छोड़ो और करंट भी छोड़ो। वो दूसरी बात क्या है कि जितने भी अस्पताल में यहाँ तो बड़े बड़े अस्पतालों में जो बीमारी लोग, उन लोगों को कुर्सी पर बैठा के यहाँ से रास्ते छोड़ के रास्ते से सब भाग के सुबह से जा रहे हैं। मिला है, थोड़ा इंतजार करो, बाद में सोचेंगे क्या करना है। अभी फिलहाल क्या है कि वो लोग भी बाहर नहीं निकल रहे हैं, और वो लोगों को भी प्रॉब्लम है। पूरे जितने ये कारतूम है ना, कारतूम पूरा लाइट बंद है, कारतूम पूरा पानी बंद हो गया है। इसमें शाम में जाके वो पाव ले लेते हैं, ऐसा वाला सूखा देखिए, ये ब्रेड वाला ऐसा सूखा वाला ब्रेड खा के सो रहे हैं। देखिए ब्रेड ऐसा खा के सो रहे हैं, पाव, ये ब्रेड है सूखा पाव ऐसा वाला खा के सो रहे हैं। हमें ये खाएगा तो बैठ जाते, पानी भी नहीं है यहाँ पे, ऐसा हो रहा है।
औरत और पुरुषों में 50-50% का, यानी कि जो फैमिली आए हैं, फैमिली फंसे हैं यहाँ पे, और सिंगल जो आए हैं, सिंगल फंसे हुए हैं, और बच्चे भी हैं यहाँ पे। कुछ फैमिली आए हैं यहाँ पे, मेरे भाई जो है उनकी फैमिली है पूरा, और 3 बच्चा भी है, 3 बच्चे हैं। ये जो बूढ़े बुजुर्ग है, इनके फैमिली है यहाँ पे, और यहाँ पे जो एक बैचलर लड़का खड़ा हुआ है।
देखिए अभी तो खाना पानी के लिए तो बहुत मुसीबत हो रहा है, और पानी नहीं है, खाना नहीं है, और रूम का पैसे बंद हो करके झगड़ा कर रहा है लोग, मेरे को भगा दिया करके बता रहे हैं। अभी उसके लिए तो वो लोग नहीं, अभी इंडियन वाले तो आने के लिए मना कर रहे हैं इधर। अभी इंडियन वाले बोल रहे हैं हम कैसे आएंगे, वो बैंकेट बनाएगा तो हम खा सकते ना।
कोई आदमी 2-2 महीने का लगा के यहाँ पे आए थे वीजा, वो 2-2 महीने खत्म होने के बाद में दूसरा के लिए 1 साल के लिए लगाने के लिए 1 ईयर के लिए दिए थे वो लोग। अभी क्या है, वो लोगों का ब्लड चेकअप होके पूरा पक्का होके वीजा के लिए दिया था, इसके बाद में ये झगड़ा चालू हो गया है। ऐसा है, किसके पास पासपोर्ट है नहीं, किसके पास पासपोर्ट है नहीं, ऐसा है। 25 से 60, 70 तक है।
बोलो
बहुत परेशान,
प्रॉब्लम
बहुत परेशान है, खाना नहीं, पानी नहीं।
बाकी में पानी नहीं है, खाने सब मर रहे हैं, बच्चे बाल बच्चे मर रहे हैं। हमको क्या भी करना, दीदी मदद कर रहे, क्या भी मदद करना हमको। खाने को 2-3 बात तुम्हें पानी नहीं है, खाने को पानी, पीने को पानी नहीं है, खाने को रोटी सूखा रोटी खा को बात भी पड़ा है, सूखा रोटी खा है। अभी मदद कर हमको इंडियन इंडियन भेज देना। बहुत परेशान, बाम सब बिल्डिंग बिल्डिंग टूट गया, आजू बाजू का बिल्डिंग फोड़ दिया। वो चोर सब चोर लोग ये आदमी सब जा रहा है, चोर का आदमी बिल्डिंग में घुस जाएगा, वो डर लग रहा है। चोर बहुत चोर है यहाँ, इंडियन का आदमी है ना यहाँ, वो चोर वाला आदमी हमारे रूम में घुस जाएगा। हमारा बीबी बच्चे सबको क्या क्या करेगा मालूम नहीं, दीदी जल्दी करे तो हमको जल्दी भी नहीं आ जाएगा।
We continue tracking this and much more details up on our website news18.com. That's all on this edition. News and updates continue. Thank you for watching.
Child asks whether he is whether his parents can get married or not. The history I'm talking about. So when you go through that history, you need to understand that the most important chapter or aspect in the adoption is for the child. So how can now two people claim that no, the child who is not able to speak in front of you, we are able to, or we are capable enough to
But
take care
heterosexual
of
couples do that all the
It
time,
should
who
be
want to adopt
given
are
to the
doing that all
child
the
then.
time. What sort of argument is that? Anyway,
Yeah, so-
let me
yeah,
ask,
and how
no,
does-
one second,
yeah,
let me
and-
ask Harish
yeah,
Iyer.
and I'll tell you, I'll tell you.
One second,
I'll
sir,
tell you.
one second, one
Just
second.
give me
Let-
give me 10
let-
seconds.
Harish Iyer, again, I keep coming back to, the right to equality and to treat everyone as equal before law is an established, fundamental tenet of our constitution. Article 14 and 15 give that guarantee to every single Indian citizen. Even when you go back and look at let's say the Shabarimala matter, I'm taking a purely religious matter, the reason why the Supreme Court struck down not allowing women of a certain age into that shrine was because it violates the basic rights of a class of citizens because of their gender, right? And the Supreme Court said that that is violative of 14 and 15. Here again, you're violating the basic rights of any individual, rights that you're perfectly willing to give to heterosexual couples, basis the fact that they're sexually oriented in a particular way.
I think Zara, one of the important things to speak about is that a constitution is not doesn't discriminate and doesn't say that some people need to be given preferential treatment while some people, just because they belong to a minority community, should not be given preferential treatment. When it comes to marriage rights, that's how it is at this moment. There is enough evidence, enough and more evidence that LGBTQIA plus people, LGBTQIA plus families thrive as much as heterosexual families thrive. Whether it is about families with children, whether it's families, if you go in the West, of course you'll not get examples over here because here you can't really adopt a gay couple can't adopt a child. But if you go to the West, you'll see that a lot of people who have adopted, and they are as good or as bad as heterosexual couples. So the entire idea, let's not even get to adoption and other things. When we are sticking to marriage, just sticking to marriage, let me tell you that we cannot have preferential treatment given to a particular sexuality, whereas the other sexuality is completely left out. And marriage equality is our right, irrespective of what my genitals or my partner's genitals are. It's our right. And as long as two adults are deciding that they want to live together, they want to they want to have the signing authority when one of the partners is dying. They want to have the right to buy. I think you can still take a bank account together, but if you're taking a loan together, it's still a hassle. If they want to do that, it also means a lot of economic rise for India. Why would India deprive itself of this economy? Why would India deprive itself, its citizens, of these basic rights to love and to be with the one I love in legal matrimony?
The argument put forth by the centre is that marriage in a country like India is essentially a religious construct. It is sort of solemnized by whichever religion you believe in, and therefore, in a country that is deeply religious conservative, this idea of legalizing same-sex marriage may not fly. A majority might actually resent such a move, and therefore the centre is arguing that same-sex marriage should not be made legal. How would you counter that argument?
I would say that our country is known for its secularism, its diversity and its inclusion. The fact that a Special Marriage Act even exists is, is a certificate to the fact that we consider that there are people with different religions who are part of this country. As far as the laws concerning the Hindu Marriage Act and the, the acts around marriage, the personal laws, while we may not have legal sanctity going through that,
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. A constitution bench of the Supreme Court heard a batch of petitions seeking legal recognition for same-sex marriages in India for a second straight day today. About 20 such petitions have been filed in the apex court between 2020 and 2023. The petitioners are demanding legalization of gay marriages as the law denies them matrimonial and retirement benefits. Today, the arguments continued in the direction that decriminalization of homosexuality is not enough and gays shouldn't be treated as less just